Dan, we are back again, and we just finished launching a bunch of podcast episodes on the channel. And you and I have spent the last week and a half or so just monitoring how many views all these episodes got, because we had some killer content. We had some killer guests.
We've been very, very blessed. It's been a very exciting couple of weeks, really.
Couple of weeks, yeah. And so today we're going to kind of free flow this conversation and see where it takes us. But one of the things that we wanted to absolutely start with is how fortunate and how blessed we are to be able to sit down with such talented, intellectual, wise, the list goes on, right? I mean, it's a broad spectrum of people that come through Sanctus Ranch.
Very much. And we've had some great conversations. I mean, let's see, who have we had, really? So we had Dr. Ed Schaefer from the Collegium. He was in. That was great at our event. We've had Nick Cavazos. Nick's been a great friend to the ranch and been here for quite a few things. We had Dr. Peter Kwasniewski.
Yep.
That was fantastic to see him and have him again. I actually got a chance to speak with him again today. And then we had another event where Jesse Romero was in on video. We had Joe McLean from A Catholic Take. He was in. Michael Hitchborn from the Lepanto Institute.
Yeah.
We had Father John Lovell in with our new Unprofitable Servants account. So it's been a lot. And I do know that some of our listeners, so I want to apologize if you were one of these individuals, they've responded to me and they're like, please don't dump me 7 podcasts a day. So it was a lot. So if you're still catching up, we appreciate you paying attention.
Well, the views would say otherwise, though. So
this is true.
You know what I mean? And me coming from my podcast production background, when you told me you wanted to launch them all at once, I was like, Dan, you don't do that. You do one at a time, but I really am glad that we did it that way, because we were able to kind of ride that wave of the excitement of having all these people here. And every single one of those has gotten, a decent amount of traction. Again, you got to remember, we're just a small little new podcast that barely launched like at the beginning of March.
Sure.
So we're only about 90 days in. So when we see an episode like Nick Cavazos with over 2,000, we're like, wow, that's exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah, because he was kind enough to bring over some of his herd our direction.
Absolutely.
Dr. K does a great job of bringing in his own, his own views, because he's got a decent little following himself. But I enjoy reading the comments. I enjoy seeing that people are finding the shows just based on YouTube's algorithm.
Yes.
Just simply serving this up to people that they think will have some type of interest in this kind of stuff. And a lot of them will say, I'm so glad I found this page.
I've read those comments too, and that's been exciting. Because,
isn't it?
If they're finding it and there's some sort of value that's coming through, that's the reason we're doing this.
That's right.
I remember when we were talking about whether we should do this or not, certainly was recommended by quite a few of our benefactors that said, hey, you guys should have a podcast. Talk about what it takes to restore Christian culture.
Yep.
And I'm like, are we going to have anything to say? And
right.
So I think it has worked out that the Lord knew what he was doing. He said, put a couple mics in front of us. Let's talk about it. Get some people that really bring some very heady intellectual conversations. So we've definitely had that in the last few weeks.
Sure.
And then, we get an opportunity for you and I, maybe just me, we'll just laugh a little bit and maybe not quite as intellectual in the responses that we're going to have.
That's okay. That's all right. We enjoy our conversations.
That's right.
And that's what I was thinking. I was thinking after we launched all those episodes, one of the main reasons when I kind of approached you and said, hey, I'm in this podcasting world, I think this would work well for you. It had mostly to do with the fact that I knew that there were some really high profile people that were coming through here.
Yeah.
And it was like they would come and they would give a retreat or they would give a talk or they would give a conference. And then knowing that you could pull those people to the side and create a whole different conversation with them. And to the point of, we were able to do some people's backstory. Like, Nick's whole thing was kind of his conversion story.
That's right.
You did something similar with Joe McLean. He was able to kind of talk about his, from being a Freemason,
right.
If you thought being a Calvinist to Catholic was hard, what about a Freemason? So that was really impressive.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really great about this. It's a very different conversation in the podcast level than what it is that, maybe what they're presenting from the stage and what have you, right?
That's right.
And I think we there's a few people that I want to already have back again. And I want to approach it maybe from a different angle and go a little bit deeper. We did a little bit of that with Kennedy Hall.
Yes.
He told us a little bit about kind of his conversion with Our Lady of Guadalupe and being in Mexico, but I kind of wish I would have gone a little deeper on his personal story. And so again, the good news is that these friends of the ranch, we know they'll be back.
That's right.
And we'll be able to have them on again. I do really regret not being able to get Michael Hitchborn on.
Yes.
That would have been fantastic.
That would have been great.
Because that guy is doing some phenomenal things with the Lepanto Institute.
Yeah.
We may or may not get him on over virtual, though, in the future, right? We might be working on bringing a few more guests in where it's you and me here, and then we've got them on a virtual feed. So that might be kind of cool. But let's be honest, right? Nothing compares to having the person sitting right there.
Yeah, and even like on the Sunday morning episode, that one was, we couldn't pull it all together. So it was a Sunday morning episode. I love the way that one worked out.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun as we got started with that episode. I tossed something out. There was a little bit of silence and Nick's like, let's jump this direction. And, so that's what's fun is when you get into these podcast episodes, everybody's just able to be a little bit looser, a little more free.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. The interview style is great. I hope that, if you like that as a listener to the podcast, let us know.
Yeah.
If you like when we get a large group with diverse opinions together, let us know if you like that. If you like it better when we're just smoking a couple of cigars and hanging out, I think there's a need for all of those conversations.
Yeah, for sure. And we're hoping that maybe even another show or two may be birthed as a result of some of these conversations as well. I love this concept of having a dedicated Sunday morning something.
Yeah.
From the Catholic perspective. Yeah, I always liked the Sunday morning politics shows on CBS and what have you. It was just totally different vibe, right? Compared to all the weekday stuff. It just felt different for some reason.
Right.
And maybe that's kind of what I picked up on when you guys did that Sunday roundtable. It was just knowing that it was early on a Sunday morning here at the ranch. It just kind of made it interesting. It made it different.
Yep.
The conversation it's going to go a different direction compared to doing a late afternoon on a Wednesday.
Right. I felt like it was afternoon on the Sunday because I had, I think, gone to the airport at like 4 a.m. to drop Father off. So
you didn't have quite the morning vibe, I guess.
No, everybody else was a little happier about it being morning.
Yeah, I got you. You were already on your 6th cup, I think, of coffee at that point in time. Well, either way, so we are very thankful as we kind of recap everything that's transpired here the last couple of weeks. And again, huge shout out to everyone that came by, everyone that gave some input, and especially, of course, all of the viewers and the listeners.
Yes.
And we did also, one more thing, cross a milestone, 500 subscribers on YouTube. So again, when you're starting brand new and there wasn't a lot of movement for a while there, but then we start putting out these episodes and it's just cool to see it. It's just cool to see the natural growth.
And I think there'll be some very exciting things happening too. Is we're going to be putting out the talks that we're given.
Yeah.
From the Securing Sacred Ground fundraiser.
Yeah.
Those talks will be coming out. The Wednesday afternoon talks or evening talks from a week ago.
Yeah.
Those will be coming out, and so I think there's a lot for people to look forward to as well.
And you know what? We still have some amazing talks from the conferences as well, like the Invictus from last year and this year. Those are kind of sitting and chilling in the vault.
That's right.
Right now. So if you want us to release those, maybe chime in on that as well.
That's
right. Let's see if we get any response of those that might be interested in having more edifying content come out, and maybe we can figure out how we might be able to release that once we get Dan's approval.
Yes, I'm happy to approve that. But, we're going to need people to beg.
That's right.
Just a little bit.
Stroke the guy's ego just a little bit, give him that.
Good.
That's right.
They're like, just release anything as long as it's not Dan talking. That would be great.
And if in bonus points, if you think Dan's beard looks nicer than mine, he'll release all the episodes
it's easy.
Immediately right then and there on the spot, even though you'd be lying and you'd have to go to confession.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
One of the other things that I think was really fun about the last week and a half is that there were opportunities for people to come together in community. So we're recording this podcast right now, and it's just in front of our monthly men's platoon meeting. Yep. Another opportunity where a bunch of guys are going to come out tonight. We're going to have some time to pray. worship God in adoration, and then we're going to have a little meal. We're going to have a cigar. We're going to have a beverage, because it gives us an opportunity to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
And that happened late night, when we were with Michael Hitchborn. He started to go down a road, and some of the guys were really geeking out on that. Maybe we'll bring him back for that conversation. And then the same was the case on the Saturday evening event. And that's one of the great benefits that I think people are really still starving for, and we need to make an effort towards getting people together in community so that our faith has these interactive moments as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I was commenting to a friend of mine was that, I'm always impressed with the fact that we will have a speaker, and typically it's almost always a male speaker. And then we'll have that guide time afterwards, and we'll sit around the fire, or the proverbial fire if it's a hot summer day in San Antonio or outskirts of South Texas here. And we'll just, there's an adult beverage in hand. There's typically either a pipe or a cigar, and there's just very manly conversation.
Yeah.
And, one of the unfortunate things about this place is that there are a lot of these former military guys that come here. And we love them to death, but they can drive us crazy sometimes. And it's hard to even get a word in with these guys. You know who they are.
Yeah.
You know who you are if you're listening.
That's right.
But no, I'm kidding. But it's kind of it's a strong man environment in our conversations. We're telling jokes, we're cutting each other. We're which is our love language, of course. And afterwards, almost every single time, I've noticed that whoever that guest person is, they're like, dude, I needed that. I didn't realize how much I needed that guide time out there like that. These guys are busy too. They're living their lives, and let's be honest, like Michael Hitchborn's content was extremely dense.
It was.
It was a little depressing. And anytime you have to, they pull the curtain back on what's really going on behind the scenes, it's painful.
Right.
It's really painful to hear it and see it. And so this is the kind of work that these guys are doing a lot of times. And I'm sure it's stressful.
Yeah.
So then for them to be able to come out and be with the community, to your point, in this case, it's the guys' community, it's the man's community, and just to be guys, right? With our common bond of our faith and the things that are important to us, you can almost see the stress coming off of these individuals as they're able to just get into their comfort zone and just be real.
Right.
Right. And it's just like, I get to just hang out with the guys. This is kind of nice, Yeah. And so you don't find that in many places where you can have a really good, you use the word safe space, but safe in the sense that, hey, these guys are, we're on the same page. We see eye to eye in a lot of these things. But what gives us peace and comfort is that we're talking about stuff that like the rest of the world thinks we're weird.
Right.
Because we hold these views, right? And we have these beliefs. And so sometimes it's just really nice to have that community to be able to share that with.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I think that the community is key. And it actually reminds me of one of the things that came up that I thought was just a great takeaway. So I'll tease this just a little bit. The community so that we can discuss things is very, very important. But I was reflecting today on Jesse Romero and on Jesse's comments. One of the things that he was talking about is he says there's really three kinds of Catholics. And he kind of went through them. He said that there's the jawbone Catholics, the ones that are just talking about things and, this is wrong or there's this issue or we've got to do that, blah, blah, blah. And then we also have the wishbone Catholics. Oh, I wish this would be better, and I wish we would do this, and wouldn't it be great if we had this gathering or whatever? And then you have the backbone Catholics. And I thought that was a great way to kind of address it. We need to not only talk about these things, we need to wish that things will get better, but if we're going to restore Christian culture, we've got to grow a backbone. And so I think that was something that came out over the last couple of weeks. You got to have a backbone. You've got to stand. If there's an injustice, you must stand against that injustice.
Yeah.
You've got to come together, and we do this from the guy perspective very often. Get that backbone and say, no, I'm going to resolve to do something different.
Yeah.
And when we just stay in our own isolated little places, I don't think we get those opportunities to say, no, where's the backbone going to come in? Where am I going to say this is enough is enough,
right,
and I'm going to change some things so we move our family and our communities forward too?
That's very true. That's very true. And one of the things about our community in particular is that we have this desire to be more traditional. We want to be more old school. We love our TLM mass. And unless you've been living under a rock, you know that a lot of that's been shunned.
Yes.
A lot of that there's been strong attempts, obviously, to suppress that, right?
Yes.
And it seems like a lot of what comes along with it, right? Which seems to be a very controversial, frame of mind, which it shouldn't be. I don't get it. I really don't understand why, just simply standing up for what the church has always taught has suddenly pushed you into some type of a subcategory of Catholicism. I just don't get it,
Well, and I think we saw this week too. I'm sure you saw all the reports that have come out and stated what the surveys were before they brought out to Traditionis Custodes.
Right.
And it turns out, no, actually what we've been fed is not right. This isn't even what the majority of bishops were saying that the faithful was looking for. The faithful were looking for the traditional Catholicism. And it's actually the minority that's out there ranting and raving and trying to do things that are crazy.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that they get away with that, I truly believe, is because we've lost our sense of community.
Yeah.
We've lost our sense where we come together and we talk about these things. So every now and again, you get some crazy person. I mean, we've had the whole woke culture, all that stuff, right? And we go, gosh, have things changed that much?
Yeah.
And we find out, no, it was just kind of a radical fringe group that started to push an agenda. So we've almost been taught, you just stated it, well, like, how did we become fringe?
Yeah. Right.
No, it's actually not that we're fringe. That's been the faith.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So it points back to the fact that these type of environments, these type of communities where we can get together are just, obviously they're vital. In particular, the women, I think the women I see, I've seen my life being Catholic, the women have kind of taken more control of the reins of a lot of the mainstream Catholicism, which was not the way that it was intended and the way that it was built. We had Kennedy Hall in here talking a lot about that, and he got some nasty comments, of course, because you're not allowed to say anything of that sort. It automatically means that you hate women when you just say that this is the way that God created the church and the hierarchy and the order and things like that. But the point is, the women have never had difficulty getting together and creating groups and having community, whether it's a prayer group or just an opportunity to hang out and do things, right? And so what I saw, at least in my perspective, was it wasn't as common for the men to do it.
Right.
And so maybe that's one of the reasons, Dan, why I was just so big on this place when I found it.
Yeah.
Because, you and I had, kind of talked about having a retreat here through my parish, what have you. And then I ended up finding the Whiskey Cigar Jesus retreat. And then when I saw that, I was like, man, this guy's just kind of like right in my wheelhouse here. And this is exactly what I had been looking for. And of course, that first Whiskey Cigar and Jesus retreat was the absolute, it can never be topped.
True.
Because you guys just winged the whole thing,
right.
Which meant the Holy Spirit just did its thing, right? And I've been to every single one of them, and I'm always craving, how do we top that first one?
Right.
I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know. But nonetheless, it got me hooked, and this became my new favorite place. And I think it had a lot to do with that desire for not just the community, because it's a great place where I can bring my whole family and feel really good about it, but especially so that I have a group of other men that I can hang out with, that I can joke around with, that I can ask for prayers, and that we can talk about some of these important things that we are dealing with, because I do think that God has asked us as the heads of the homes to be the ones to actually do something to really change the culture.
Yeah.
And hence the name of the podcast, right?
That's right.
Hence the name of your whole entire nonprofit now is culture.
Yeah.
Right. But it's Christian culture, and it's our call to restore it. It's kind of our version of the Make America Great Again, right?
That's right.
So
we should get hats.
Correct. What are we waiting for? We need the bright red hat with white letters on it.
That's right.
So I can get attacked at the airport. But anyway, Yeah. So I
Well,
think,
and once we get that part right, when we get the guys going, one of the things I'm excited about, there are some young adult initiatives, if you would, that are about to roll out here.
Okay.
Whether it be the school or luminary program, but also some young adult ministry programs, because that community is desired there as well.
Sure.
And so if we continue to, bring in great intellectuals, if we continue to bring in great personalities, people that inspire us, and then we also kind of put that together with these community gatherings, I think that there's something special that's here. And if it's someone that is watching this podcast right now or listening to it, and they go, gosh, I wish I had that in my parish or in my community, what I want to encourage you is just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. I think that's one of the things that we should realize from the lay perspective. We got that domestic church. If it's not there, put it together.
Yeah.
Don't allow it not to exist.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dan, I think today's episode, we're just going to kind of keep it short and sweet. We needed to cool off anyways after all that excitement, right? Okay. This is our back to normal podcast episode again. And then hopefully we can dive into some bigger topics and some bigger issues and then get some other guests in here.
Absolutely. Again. A little tease. We are going to have another podcast coming up pretty soon. I'm actually going to bring Matthias back onto the podcast. We're going to talk about one of the articles he recently wrote for his Substack that I think will be a lot of fun. So we'll do that very soon. And then we're also going to have a podcast that we're going to be discussing everything related to that Whiskey, Cigars, and Jesus retreat, as that's about ready to open up. And if anyone has heard about that and they said, hey, I'm interested, I'll tease the podcast that we're going to do because we're going to make all the announcements then. But as soon as Whiskey, Cigars, and Jesus opens up, I promise you it's going to be a packed house this year. You're going to want to be able to register right away and get your slot.
Yeah. Man, you're getting me excited over here just thinking about that.
Believe it or not, it's October. It's not that far away.
No, it's not. And thank you, by the way, for always making sure that event is done in at least semi-fallish part of the year down here, so we can actually sit outside by the fire and it's not like horrendous like it is in August, right? Or even the end of July. It's like, geez. So yeah, I'm forever grateful for you for doing those in the spring or in the fall, one of the two. So, but yeah, I think that's about it. Great conversation as always, Dan. Thanks so much for your input. Thanks for everything you're doing here at the RCCI. And just another little reminder to our faithful followers and listeners, check out our website. We have also a website dedicated to the podcast, restoringchristianculture.org. There's an opportunity to leave us some feedback there. We always need more feedback on the show itself. In other words, you're leaving a review, like a 5-star review, wink, wink, please, is what we're looking for. But there's also a place there where you can donate. So this facility doesn't run for free, unfortunately. And so there's always a need. These microphones were not free, all these goodies here, the beautiful Jerusalem wood here, all that stuff has to come from somewhere.
That's right.
And so we've got to keep this thing running, and we need your help. We can't do it without you. So there's my Mother Angelica-esque ask.
There you go.
And we will see you, I think, next time.
That'd be great. Thanks, Marco. Appreciate you.
All right. God bless.
Take care.